Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple, to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So, stay with us, as right now we present. On today's show, we are going to share your fire. Stay with us, as right now we present. Oh, we're getting feedback from someone. You're going to share your fire. I think somebody must have their. You have your cell phone on? We're getting feedback from someone. Oh, that's interesting.
Well, that's fun.
Okay, so let me see. Check what's going on here.
That is truly interesting.
Yeah. Oh. It was me. I had you on YouTube live in my web browser.
Oh, very good. So we were getting feedback from YouTube. By the way, if you want to tune in, or if you want anybody else to tune into this broadcast, you can by going to Positive Talk Radio, the YouTube channel, or the Facebook channel, or the Twitter channel, and you can go to John's, I guess it's X now.
I know.
I don't know what X means or why he did that, but what do you do? Anyway, John Verrico is with us, and he is, hold on.
Oh, my.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to.
I'm so glad I could get you all choked up there, Kevin.
You did. It was pretty easy. Cayetana is with us, and did I say that right? Am I getting it better?
Oh my God, yes.
Oh, good. That is so nice to know. Cayetana is with us, and she acts as the co-host, and she actually does stuff like John. She prepares questions. I know that's probably a good thing, but I'm not capable of doing that because I can't keep that in my head that long. So anyway, but John is a stand-up comedian. He's a master storyteller. He's a motivational speaker. He's all over the place, and you can go to his website, which is johnverrico.com, or you can go to his YouTube channel. Well, you go to his website, and you can find his YouTube channel from there and stuff. So, John, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. If we're any better, I'd have to be twins to enjoy it, but that almost happened with the audio here.
I know. We were bouncing back and forth a little bit, which is pretty cool, and it's great to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, let's see. No, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I was a little kid. I was the undersized kid in school. So picture, I actually moved to New Jersey. So picture when I graduated high school, I was only 5'3" and weighed 110 pounds.
Oh, I am so sorry.
I was the skinny little brat. And I had a big mouth, and it got me in trouble all the time. So I got picked on by the bullies, and I just said, hey, you know what? I don't like that. I want to do something about it. And so later on in life, I just made a determination that no one should ever be made to feel that way again. And so I just dedicated myself to helping make life better for other people if I can.
And how do you
the long evolvement, how to get there? We can talk forever about the in-betweens.
What is it like? Now, I was not... I was a football player and baseball player in high school and stuff. So I wasn't the 5'3", 110-pound kid. What is it like being that and having to live within that body and knowing that that's not really who you are, but that people make fun of you and they laugh and stuff like that?
At the time it was hell, but in reality, when I look back at it, I realized that everyone had their own thing that they were getting picked on, whether it's the fat kid or, whatever. There was always somebody being picked on for something. And so once I realized that, it wasn't me personally necessarily, then, I was able to kind of start to overcome. But, I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be included in stuff. And so I would do everything I could to try to do that. Well, imagine me at my size trying to play football. I pretty much got stomped. And so, and I wasn't really a good baseball player. I was way too short for basketball. So I ultimately wound up joining the wrestling team.
Ah, there you can excel.
Yeah.
Right. Well, sure. Little skinny kid. Why not?
Yeah,
So here I joined the wrestling team. I think I weighed about 96 pounds.
and they have a weight class for that.
They do, and I was under it, but I made it.
Oh.
So the coach looked at me, and after he kind of like shook his head a little bit, he said, "Look, you need to get in the gym, and I need you to work out. You need to put some muscle on, kid, because you're just going to get creamed out there." So I would go into the weight room, and I'd start looking around to go trying to pump iron. Well, all the gorillas are in there, right? I mean, I couldn't get near the equipment even if I wanted to. Excuse me, it's my turn. Can I maybe borrow that bar there? Just, you can take the weights out. Just give me the bar. There was really no way for me to get that workout in. So I sat in the corner on the only piece of equipment that no one else was using, and that was the leg press.
Ah.
And I sat there just pumping the leg press for my dedicated hour. And my legs popped. I mean, I got these huge, massive, muscular Popeye legs. And that was attached to a skinny, scrawny, concave chest, toothpick armed, olive oil upper body. I look like somebody Frankenstein together two completely different people. But my legs were so strong that they couldn't pin me because I could always kick out and get out from underneath anybody. So even though I lost plenty of matches, I never lost by being pinned. I didn't have the upper body to pin anybody else either. So that was so I got the nickname the Mighty Mosquito because I was small, I sucked, and I mostly got swatted.
Yeah, but you know what? You are now a motivational speaker and you're a stand-up comic and you do all of these things. And that was part of your journey that led you to where you are today, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's what started to give me a little bit of confidence. Just knowing that I had some asset that other people didn't have. And once I realized that really helped me to grow a little bit. And then after high school, it's still back in the disco era because I am that old. I was watching, all these guys get out there and they can get all the girls because they could dance. And I was like, I've got to learn how to do this. And so I would watch, American Bandstand and Soul Train and all that stuff and watch all the cool disco moves. And I practice them, with a broomstick or whatever, because I didn't have enough, I didn't have any girlfriends. And so, and I hung around with a really good looking guy. And when we would go out to the clubs, the girls would all be attracted to him. Well, he can only dance at one at a time. So I got the leftover. They're like, you mind dancing with me? And so we would go out and dance, and somebody would see my moves and go, hey, that was slick. Do that again. And next thing you know, I was teaching dance. I was a disco dance instructor. So just, you just never know where things are going to go. And from there, I got into doing some theater, and then I realized I needed discipline in my life because I was used to working in nightclubs and I couldn't get up for a day job. And I was a journalist. I was a freelance journalist trying to hold a freelance journalist job in the daytime, but I couldn't get up in the morning. So I was not reliable. I was a great writer, but I was not reliable. So by the time I would show up for an event, the news was over. So I joined the Navy to get some discipline in my life. Talk about a switch.
Yeah. Well, takes a great deal of guts to go do that because they don't tolerate. Give me 5 more minutes. I don't.
No. There's no snooze alarm for boot camp. I would tell you that. And I was one of those 5 snooze alarm kind of guys. And I was in the Navy for 25 years, and I still am a 5 snooze alarm kind of guy. I still can't get up in the morning. I didn't really get the discipline I thought I did, but I did get a career field. So.
And you've done a tremendous amount of stuff. Cayetana, this guy has been, one of his jobs was he was the, he ran let me explain. See if I can. And I didn't know this prior to meeting you, John, is that Navy ships have got a system by which they have a radio station, or they've got a news outlet, or they've got a public relations outfit, and like a
TV stations.
TV stations,
Mhm.
and like a aircraft carrier. I'm sure would have like a dozen people that were in this facility or something like that, because there are 5,000 folks on the aircraft carrier.
Right.
This guy was so good they put him into a little dinky boat where he was the only guy. Either that or he couldn't get along with anybody. I mean, which one was it?
Probably a combination of both. Now, I was on an ammunition supply ship. I was on a ship full of things that go boom,
Wow.
and I ran. Yeah, I was the only person on board, and I ran 2 TV stations, 2 radio stations. I did the evening news by setting up the camera and sitting in front of it and anchoring it. I wrote my own scripts and all of that. I wrote all the speeches for the commanding officer. I was I did a shipboard newspaper, a monthly newsletter that would go home to the families, all the press releases. I handled all the media queries when we had follow up. When we pulled into port, I became tour guide and community relations guy and all that kind of. I was and a ship's photographer, if I didn't mention that. So yeah, it was kind of did a little of everything, everything in the public affairs, public relations, communication, broadcasting field. I did as a staff of one on board a Navy ship.
Which was
It was very cool.
a great learning experience.
Wow, what a wonderful learning experience it was. I came away with so much.
Cayetana, go ahead.
No, I said like being the only person there, you had, like free range to, create your own, your brand at that moment, right?
That actually was a true benefit, but it was also a downside to it. And besides just being busy as all get out, I realized that I had nobody to compare to and nobody to learn from. So I had to learn a lot of stuff myself. I had to figure out how to do things. And I didn't know if I was doing things well or not. And sometimes that worked in my favor because the boss didn't know what I was, if what I was doing was according to the book or not. Right. So he was just like, sometimes I would get great evaluations because he would assume knew what I was doing. And a different boss might assume that I had no idea what I was doing and he'd give me bad evaluations. And I was doing the same work. It's just a matter of because they didn't know. And so I really tried hard to affiliate with other people that were in my career field whenever the opportunity presented itself. But when you're on a ship out at sea for months at a time, you don't really have that opportunity. Back in the days when I was in the Navy, we didn't have email. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have ways to stay in touch with each other. There was no listserv or websites to go to for information. So most of us were in that situation where we were out there learning on our own. On the larger ships, they had a staff. On these smaller ships, no, we're all by ourselves.
So how long would you go out for a time?
8, 9 months at a clip.
Cayetana, could you imagine being on a boat with a bunch of smelly guys 8 and 9 months at a time?
Hey, I shared my bedroom with 180 other guys, man.
Oh my God. No. It's too long to be in the water. And I'm a fish, but it's too long to be in the water. I need some ground, I want to say anything. Oh my God, my English.
This was a consideration when I was thinking about the military in the first place, right? I'm not a very physical guy. And so, the idea of being, crawling through the mud and being a ground pounder, like the Army or the Marine Corps, like, no, that's not me. And I have a fear of heights, so the Air Force was right out. So I joined the Navy because I knew how to swim. And my kid brother said was part of the problem here because he said, I need to go. I think I'm thinking about going into the Navy and maybe you should come with me. Maybe it'll straighten your butt out. And I said, you know what, let's do that. And so we both signed up together to go into the Navy. He was going to be a boiler technician and I was going to be a Navy journalist. And he had to lose a little bit of weight. So we had to wait. And I had a long wait before my school, the Navy journalism school, was going to be available. So I said, okay, we've got some time, and so he's got time to lose weight and I've got to wait for my school. Well, then they had an opening in the school and they said, you can go. I was like, okay. And my brother said, go ahead, I'll meet you out in the fleet. And he's still laughing. He never joined.
Oh, he never joined?
He never joined.
Well, I was just thinking about that. It's like, I'm going to join the Navy, and I've got two choices. I'm going to be a boiler mechanic, or I'm going to be in journalism. Was
Well,
that
there were a
even
lot of other
choice?
choices too.
I know, but I mean, come on. He was going to be but then he never went in. So,
Right.
yeah.
I think he chose a job that had a good career progression and had, had he joined, there would have been an enlistment bonus because boiler technicians were the kind of people that they needed a lot of.
Yeah.
So whereas journalists, is considered a prestigious job.
Yeah. My son, by the way, is in the Air Force, and
Congratulations and thank you for his service.
well, and you're welcome. And he is a airplane or a jet engine electrician person who works on the air conditioning and all that kind of good stuff. And he was telling me that he had a choice of going into the Army or going into the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he actually did a small tour in Kuwait, which is right next to uh, Saddam Hussein's place, Iraq.
Iraq.
And he was telling me the difference between the Air Force and the Army is that in the Air Force they had bunks, they had this house that they stayed in that had air conditioning.
Yes.
The Army guys had a tent if they were lucky.
If they were lucky.
If they were traveling, they were digging a hole and spending the night in a hole on their travels. So it was like, why would that even be a consideration? But I applaud all of our
great deal of respect for them.
Absolutely, no kidding.
Respect for them. I joke all the time about being a ground pounder or any of that kind of stuff, but no, I have a high level of respect for all of them. As a matter of fact, this is a live show, so I can say that next week I'll be out in Las Vegas at the Military Influencers Conference, where there's just several thousand active and former military folks, that are starting their own businesses and that kind of stuff, getting together and learning from each other and growing to each other. The military community is the brotherhood is fabulous. It really is.
I've talked to some a gal that what she and her and at the VA post that she was at in Pennsylvania, they would send care packages overseas to guys that were deployed, and it would be candy and it would be things that they could not get in the States.
Fig Newtons.
That was a big one.
My dad worked for Nabisco,
Ah,
and my favorite cookie was Fig Newtons. And so every once in a while, I would get a huge box from him. And half of the box was Fig Newtons. And the other half of the box was an assortment of other Nabisco brand cookies and an obligatory pepperoni. Because, you can't be Italian and not have a pepperoni. And he was afraid that even though I was over in Italy half the time, I wasn't getting a good pepperoni. So, and I remember the ship had gone. We went down through the Suez Canal. And we went into the Indian Ocean and we stopped at this little nothing of an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. There's nothing there but military base. And it's Diego Garcia. And we'd gotten some mail when we were there and there was a package from Dad and it was the Fig Newtons. And I realized that one of my old shipmates, actually a classmate of mine back in journalism school, who used to tease me all the time about the Fig Newton packages, was stationed there on Diego Garcia. So I grabbed one of the packages of Fig Newtons out of my, carton from Dad and went ashore and went to the TV station that was on the base there to look for him and just walk in as a joke with the Fig Newtons. Well, he wasn't at his desk at the moment. So I just put the cookies down and I walked into the other room and I was chatting with some other people in our career field. And all of a sudden from behind me, I hear, Fig Newtons. Holy Christmas. Is John Verrico here? Apparently they couldn't get Fig Newtons at the Navy Exchange there, so he hadn't seen Fig Newtons since he'd left A school a couple of years prior either.
By the way, we're talking with John Verrico. He's a stand-up comic. He's a wonderful speaker, a motivational speaker. I highly recommend that you hire him for your event and or whatever you need, because he really is a fun guy. And one of the reasons I bring
I'm
Cayetana
a
here,
mushroom.
huh?
You called me fungi.
Oh yeah.
Hold on. Anyway,
you were, I know you were going for a sound effect. It had to be like wah 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 or something like that.
that was actually people laughing. So so I don't know. Apparently, that wasn't clear. But one of the reasons I bring Cayetana here is because she actually prepares to. So I hope that you're prepared to answer some really tough questions now.
Oh my! Well, first of all, let me just explain my principal thing out there is in leadership and communication training, and that's my principal focus. And I like to try to help people learn to treat each other better. And so I use my stand-up comedy background, and I use a lot of humor, and I'm not above using cheesy dad magic to get a point across. And so all those kinds of things, that's what I'm out there doing. And I'm also a coach for one-on-one stuff. So if anybody wants that kind of treatment. So now I know I'm going to get my brain picked at this point. So Cayetana, you look like you look mean. I think I'm going to be.
She looks ready to pounce, doesn't she?
Oh man! Oh no! I love what you do. I'm very interested in learning more about the relight my fire.
Oh, relight my fire! Yes, it's a work-life balance workshop.
Yeah, I'd love to know how you started that. How you it came to your mind? Like, hey, I wanna talk about this.
Because apparently, at one point, he did not have very good work-life balance.
No. Let me throw something out there. So at one period of my life, I was working your typical full-time. Well, actually, I'll go before that. I was going to college and I was carrying 15 credits. And so I got a part-time job, which was 64 hours a week. At the same time, I would, yes.
Hold on, wait a minute. Did you say part-time job at 64 hours a week?
Yeah, that's what I said. Part-time at 64.
That's a full-time job and a part-time job.
Extra, yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. They paid me as a part-timer, so I had no benefits, but I worked 64 hours a week. I was also doing stand-up comedy at the time. In between, I was a roadie with a band. I did occasional musical theater, and I am not a singer, by the way. And was dating 5 different girls at the time, because I'd finally kind of came out of my shell.
Quit bragging.
So I realized that this was not sustainable. This was just crazy, trying to do that. So I reduced my college schedule to 11 credits. I knocked my work schedule back to 48 hours a week. I stopped doing musical theater at the time and realized I had extra time on my hands. So I wound up going out with 9 different girls at that time. I was a glutton for punishment, but no, in all seriousness, later on, after the Navy, after my active duty time in the Navy, I was working my full-time job for a government agency. I was still in the Navy Reserve. I was doing theater. I was on 3 boards of directors for different types of things. I worked at the Maryland Renaissance Festival on the weekends. And I was a volunteer coach for illiterate adults. I was teaching literacy. And I said to my wife, and there were probably several other things too at the same time. And I said to my wife, I think I'm going to go back to school for my master's degree. And she said, what are you going to not do in order to find time to do that? So yes, I have a problem. I do. I admit it. I have a problem. It's called helium arm. It's like every time there's an opportunity to do something, my arm goes up. I'll do it. I'll do it. There goes the arm again. I'll do it.
fun.
And
So
your
that was
wife
my
is saying,
warning sign on work-life balance, and I knew that I needed to get better balance myself. And as I was learning how to do that, I was finding ways to help other people do that as well. And so the Relight My Fire workshop, that's where it came from.
Oh wow, thank you.
very nice.
And now it's a whole big long background on that, but I mean there was a background. That program in particular came from experience.
Oh, wow.
And so what the Relight My Fire program focuses on is helping people to, RSVP to the invitation to life, right? You're invited to life. You need to RSVP. And so RSVP is to refocus on the things that are most important. The S is for simplify and get rid of all the excess stuff that you don't need, uh, uh, all the excess baggage, all that kind of stuff. V is for validate what's truly critical, what's truly an emergency, and what's not. And finally, the P is for play. Take time out to play and enjoy the life that you have. So that's what RSVP stands for. And that's part of the work life balance program that's called Relight My Fire.
Now you were in broadcasting and you were in media and you were doing writing and stuff. Did it feel like you weren't really working? That you were just having way too good of a time to get paid for, or for you was it a lot of work to do that?
Yes and yes. So, so, so the thing is that I really do enjoy that kind of work. I enjoy what I do, but it is work. And if you don't dedicate the time and the effort to get it right, it becomes, a challenge. Um, I have said multiple times, and especially with the speaking and training that I do now, um, my true reward is not necessarily the paycheck. My reward is when somebody in that audience gets that little glint in their eye that says that I made a point, or that I helped them overcome a problem, and whatever it was, or somebody who came back to me like years later and said, "Oh, man, I remember when you said this and I took your advice and I did that and all these great things happened." That is my reward. I would do this stuff for free, but I have become accustomed to minor luxuries like food and shelter, so I do have to charge for it, and then it becomes work.
Yeah.
Now, when you're doing the training, what are you training people to do? To speak better, to speak like in front of people better, to understand the English language a little? And what do you teach?
So mostly what I teach, the underlying thing I teach is about understanding who you're communicating with and how you're communicating with them. And so it's all about how we interact with each other. And this goes for both the leadership and the communication side of things. How are we interacting? Are we smiling? What's our body language doing? What are the inflections in our words doing? Like I could say to you, hey, Kevin, you look nice today.
And I'd call you a liar.
And I say, Cayetana, you look nice today. Kevin, you look nice today.
And then I
Cayetana,
yeah.
you look nice today.
Ooh.
I said the same 4 words, but the inflection and the tonality is all different. That's called paralanguage, by the way. And so just understanding how you put emphasis on things will change the meaning. It will change how people accept it or not accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I intentionally did the "you look nice today" to Kevin because I didn't want Cayetana to get creeped out.
Well, I know we're better, so I can. Hey, babe, you look nice today.
But a lot of that, like like I was saying, it's really about how we interact with each other, and so understanding that other people's motivations are not necessarily the same as our own.
Mm-hmm.
And then so how do we work within those parameters with each other, understanding how people accept information, what they're looking for, what are their biases, all of that kind of thing. And that goes for whether it's public speaking, and I do a lot of public speaking training. Most of my coaching clients are for public speaking and for leadership development. And then for my workshops, my larger workshops, it's things like I just did a program on servant leadership for an Air Force squadron. So, you're kind of all over the map with those things, but the underlying core, that true understanding, interpersonal communication is kind of the skill that underlies it all. And there's more to it, but we'll get into it, I'm sure, throughout the conversation.
Yeah, well, and I did want to mention that you probably don't like texting very much, given the fact that you are an expert communicator, and texting doesn't necessarily work to communicate what you're actually trying to say very well, does it?
No, especially since I've got fat thumbs and I am a lousy typer when it comes to texting. I do text, just because of the nature of having to do so. I do instant messages and all that stuff. And, we do have to communicate by email, but I do normally prefer to either pick up the phone or get on a Teams or a Zoom call or something like that.
My son was so talented at texting that when he was in school, they were not supposed to have their phone on them. So he kept his phone in his pocket and could still text people.
Amazing.
It's amazing what the human can do when you put up certain barriers and how to get around those barriers.
Well, so I'll give you a good example of that kind of thing. When I was in the Navy, and I said how long ago it was, I joined the Navy in 1981, and I met the woman who was to become my wife in 1982. And we're still married, by the way.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. She never actually said yes. I'll get to that later. But but back then we had, like I said, we had no email and cell phones and ways to stay in touch. So everything was done by snail mail. And so I have, boxes of letters that she had sent to me over the years. And she has this little tiny stack wrapped in an envelope because I was writing all day. I was writing scripts. I was writing press releases. I was writing articles. The last thing I wanted to do on my off time, no matter how much I missed her, was actually write. I could not get my brain to focus on putting my thoughts on paper yet again. And so I would wait until the ship would get into a friendly port where there was something called the International Telephone Exchange. And we had to sign up on a waiting list. And usually it was 3 to 4 hours. And if you left the building, you lost your place in line. So you had to sit there for 3 to 4 hours waiting for an open line. And then you'd get 6 hours on the holidays, by the way. And then you would finally get connected. And it was $17 a minute. Collect.
Wow.
Collect, which meant she had to pay for it. So because it wound up on her phone bill, right? Because we didn't have credit cards back then much either. And so I think ultimately she only married me because she had so much invested at that point. She was just trying to get a little return.
Oh, I'm sure. Well,
but like I said, that was my preferred method of communication, right? I needed to hear her voice and communicate verbally because in writing just wasn't doing it for me.
Oh, exactly. But when you're gone 6 or 7 months and you come back and she still says hello, there was a reason. Yeah. She must really. She thought you were really the cat's meow, as they say. I don't know who says that.
I think until I was around more full time, then she was like, "Oh, what did I get myself into?" But of the 3.5 years of our courtship, to use an old-fashioned term, we only spent maybe 9 months in each other's physical presence in piecework. A couple of weeks here, a month there, whatever, and then it was back out again.
That must have been hard.
It was extremely hard. And I'll tell you, I watched so many military families just get torn apart by the separations. It is very, very difficult to maintain a relationship like that. But our relationship is founded on trust, and we don't suffocate each other either.
Do you think that social media can help? Not social media, but the technology that we have right now could help these families to be more in touch.
Absolutely.
It helped me to be more in touch with my family who was abroad, and yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. A lot of people mock social media for all of the problems that go on with it, but there's no doubt that the technologies that we have available today are able really helping to keep families together
Yeah,
because we can stay in touch.
Well, and the
exactly.
Zoom calls and the StreamYard calls
Yeah.
those that you can actually see somebody
Mhm.
and you can get a feel for how they are and how they're feeling and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
when
So,
I'm on travel, doing a speaking gig somewhere, or whatever, I'm on the road. My wife and I communicate not necessarily by phone, but most of the time, yeah, maybe throughout the day if there's something quick going on. But most of the time, back in the hotel room at night, we're getting on a Zoom call or a video call on Facebook or something like that, so we can actually see each other.
Yeah, exactly. And
well, one of
yeah,
these days you're going to command enough of a salary that you and for speaking that you can take her with you.
Every once in a while she comes with me. It depends on where it is and what's going on, but sometimes she'll come and she'll be there as my assistant. Actually, had been there and filmed video and stuff for me, and or staff the table hawking my books while I was on the stage or whatever it was.
So let's see. In 1980, you got married in 83 or 84?
We got married actually in '85.
Ah, in 85. So you were 2 years behind me.
I was 12 years old.
You were 12?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I was
well,
12 years old. Yeah.
In
uh,
1985, I wouldn't even think. I would have thought you were two. I thought you were like still a zygote back then.
I know
You're so young looking.
she's got good genes.
I have good genes. Ooh, thank
I've
you.
got good genes too, but they don't fit anymore.
I know mine do.
I am
That's why
I
they're
am no
still good.
longer I am no longer that little skinny 110-pound kid. I'm a double X Adonis now.
Yeah.
Well, we all grow up and stuff. But it's interesting that because you've done so many things and it really is helpful to folks to live their best life if they learn how to communicate properly. And you can help folks doing that, which is really cool.
Kevin, I've worked in so many fields while I was still trying to find myself, and before I made the decision to join the Navy and go into journalism. I tried a bunch of things. I actually started when I left high school. I went into college for electrical engineering,
Oh wow.
and I was an electronics technician for a couple of years, and I was really good at the work. But I realized the thing I found most enjoyable about it was writing the darn training manual for the other technicians and teaching the other technicians about the problems that I was seeing in the circuit boards or whatever. And and I enjoyed the writing so much. That's when I decided to go back to school for journalism. But while I was doing that, I was doing all this other stuff. I mean, I sold men's clothing, and I was a short order cook. There's some great stories coming out of that one. Uh, I was a janitor. You kind of do a little bit of everything, and kind of bounced around from different type of job to different type of job. And because of that, I can relate to what people experience in these different types of jobs. And so when I am doing my training programs, or let's say an organization wants to bring me in to talk about stuff, I find out about what's your organization about, what does your company do, what are the connections that I could make, and then I tailor a program specifically for them because I'm communicating at a level that they will understand and accept.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
thinking
and
about that the other day, this past week actually, how when people are looking for work, people their suggestion is don't put everything that you have done. Just stick with one thing and just try to find jobs that are exactly or list jobs that are exactly the same. And to me, in particular when I'm talking to people and they start talking about all their experiences they had in life, different type of job, the people they have met, it's all these beautiful memories in their heads and all their knowledge. They can do anything
Yes.
because all these traits that they have done throughout their life. And so to me, I found that more fascinating than just sticking with a profession and stay in that job and do that for so many years.
Yeah, right. It's great that that's all and you're a super expert at it, but what happens if something goes sideways, right? What skills are you going to apply to be able to address something from a new angle? And so, my working with a blues band was, I learned so much about interacting with different types of people from there, that I take those skills and I bring them over here. And this, what I learned from being an electronics technician, helps me to think linearly about other types of problems. So whatever it is, we can figure it out. And the more life experience we have, the more we can apply them. And I try to encourage, when I, especially talking to students, and they're saying, well, what kind of courses should I take? And I'm like, go across the spectrum. Yeah, it's great. Focus on your major, but take something else over here that is also, a little bit enjoyable and fun, but that you can learn something from. Every one of the jobs that I've had over the course of my entire life has taught me something, even if it's not how to do something.
Sometimes it's even teaches you how not to do something.
That's what I was trying to say, but I said it backwards.
You said it well. So see, Cayetana, he makes me nervous because he is a communications expert, and I aren't one of those necessarily. So I
you talk good.
I do.
You
okay.
talk good. It's okay.
Yeah.
I do okay. Well, you know what, you do okay too.
Don't get me started. Now my Brooklyn come back out.
Don't get you started. I love the way that accent goes, because when you're from Brooklyn and you got a whole different mindset. Now you are a very nice man.
I have to tell you though, that Brooklyn accent that I had, and I trained it out of myself being a broadcaster, but that Brooklyn accent that I had as a kid got me in so much trouble. And that started getting me picked on, because when we moved from New Jersey, from Brooklyn to New Jersey, a lot of people who aren't from the Northeast think we all sound the same.
Nope.
Uneducated street people, right? But no, there is a very, very big difference between Brooklynese and Jersey. And so kids were like, yo, Verrico, where you from? You talk funny. Like, where do you think I'm from? I'm from Mars, you idiot. So from the 4th grade on, I was known as Martian.
Well, the funny thing is about, if you haven't been, it's like the South has got its own style, the East has got its own style, and when you're in New Jersey, and I had a good friend that was from New Jersey, and he was like, "What do you mean? We yell at each other. That's what we do. We love each other, and we love each other, and we yell at each other." And it's like, well, why? Because it's what we do. What do you think? And that was kind of like, and because it's just a general way that people are in that society, or maybe that's a little stereotypical, but
maybe yes, but it's also very true. So I mean, we grow up it, but you learn. Remember, I said how you learn to apply your skill everywhere, where you learn something from every experience. So I was working at the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. I was a public affairs guy for this organization, and they were going through some budget cuts. And they said, we don't know what we're going to do to help morale here, as some people are getting laid off, and it's around the holidays. And I said, all right, look, I'm going to go get a Santa suit. You guys dress up like reindeer and elves, and we're going to go around the building, and we're going to sing Christmas carols and hand out candy canes. And they said, oh, that's a fun idea. Let's do it. So excuse me, I went out and I bought the Santa suit. And the night before we were supposed to do this gig, I had spoken on the phone to my great uncle in Brooklyn. And we chatted for a bit and kind of caught up, and he's like, "Hey, Johnny boy, how you doing? Good to hear from you. Thank you so much for giving me a call." He was in the hospital. He was in the hospital at the time, and he said, "Yeah, these nurses here, they keep trying to give me a bath." I said, "You like my body?" And I just, I had to laugh. And I came into work the next day, and I did not realize that I had regained my Brooklyn accent from having this discussion with him, because I'm a parrot. If I hear an accent, I'll start slinging it back without realizing it. And so I walked into the office the next day, and I had my Santa suit and ready to go. And I said, "Look, I'm going to go down the hall and get a cup of coffee. Then we'll go do this thing." And they said, "John, what the hell happened to you? You're supposed to be a nice, gentle Santa Claus, bringing peace and love and joy, and you sound like Cousin Vinny." So in that moment, a character named Santa's Cousin Vinny was born. I took off the fluffy white beard. I left the scruff. I borrowed a bunch of necklaces and bling. We opened up the collar, put a piece of mistletoe on my hat, put a piece of mistletoe on the tail of my jacket. And we walked around the building playing the song Santa Baby. And my reindeer and elves became my malls. And, and so they were like chewing gum and all. And so we walked around the building going, "Ho freaking ho, jingle the freaking bells. How you doing?"
I love it.
And that character just expanded from there. And it's actually something that I do in the holiday seasons now. I go into offices and do Christmas parties as Santa's Cousin Vinny.
Have you done stand-up comedian wearing that outfit, that costume?
Well, it winds up being if I'm doing an MCing gig, I'll do a stand-up bit with that, and then I'll do a lot of interaction. Like I'll have a bag full of obscure gifts and give those out, or I'll have letters from Santa is probably one of the favorite things that I'll have. Like, "Dear Santa, I don't need any presents this year. All I want is world peace." And I'm like, "Dear Henry, were your parents on drugs?" Yeah. So so I'll have like a bag full of letters like that, and then I'll respond to them. We just do goofy stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that it is a comedic gig. But sometimes it's just a walk in, do a quick shtick and walk out. And sometimes I'm emceeing the whole party. So
How does your mind work differently than the rest of us?
It's constantly going, Kevin. It's constantly going.
You need to give it a break. I imagine your lovely wife is like, of course she's used to. I bet you guys laugh a lot.
We do laugh a lot, and she's extremely tolerant. So
that's very good. You have a tolerant wife. Yeah.
She has a
fabulous. In general.
She has a fabulous sense of humor, and she's very witty. And sometimes we will sit there, and we like to watch old classic monster movies. That's another part of my history. And we'll sit there and we'll, like Mystery Science Theater 3000, throw lines and puns at the movie. And then sometimes we'll just get into a pun war back and forth with each other that might just go on through the whole movie length. Trying to see who outdoes each other.
That's really cool that she's not only your wife, she's your friend.
Oh, absolutely. She's my best friend. She's my partner. She's my soulmate. She's my rescuer. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like I was saying, I got married 2 years before you, and that marriage lasted 24 years. It was the best 6 months of my life. But Cayetana, have you got anything interesting you'd like to add?
Oh yeah. Oh, I have so many interesting questions in here. Yes, I was looking at your website and when I'm doing my research on you, and was very interested in how wanted to know how the experience of some of the people who attend your workshops are. So one of my questions is if you can share a success story or testimonial from someone who has participated in your workshop and experienced a positive transformation.
It's so hard because a lot of times, depending on the workshop, we may not have any contact with these people again for quite a while. But there was someone who attended a workshop of mine back in, I think, around 2010, and we ran into each other, and she was happy to tell me about how she had adopted some of my recommendations and wound up being the director of her old job. She took her old boss's job. And I thought that was, that was great. That was wonderful. I do have a client in Japan right now who has seen a lot of change going on in her ability to. I don't want to reveal too much about her because she likes to keep it secret, but she's got a business, and she had people that would do kind of the pitching and the selling of the business. But she had to do a lot more of it herself, especially during COVID, and she actually got quite nervous doing it. And so we worked very closely together to try to build up her confidence and give her a new way of doing a sales pitch that she was comfortable with. And she saw a significant increase in sales and felt so much better doing it. So those are, kind of businessy types of things that I'm seeing and hearing. And I love that kind of stuff. But I think sometimes it's the subtle conversations where you have the most effect. And I had, there was a young man who I had heard about who had an interesting challenge on his job, and that he was the public affairs officer for an organization. It was a state level, it was a county level government. And the FBI walked in and collected his boss's computers and marched him out of the room, out of the office. And so leaving this poor guy to handle the press about the whole thing. And so I asked him, at the time I was working with, as a volunteer, because, I keep doing stuff extra. As a volunteer, I was with the National Association of Government Communicators. And I said, look, we're having a conference, and I think some other people that are in government communication would love to hear your story and how you handled something like that. And so I brought him out to the conference, and he spoke, and he said, I've never spoken to a group like this before. I said, you'll be okay. And we chatted about, what he should say and how he should deliver it. And he gave his program, and it went over very well. And then I said, hey, if you got the time, you should join and become a member of this organization. And he joined. And then then I said, hey, we've got a board positioning opening up, and I think you'd be good for it if you want to take over as communication director for the organization. Would you run for the office? And so he did. And so he became communication director. And then, so now he's on the board of directors, and he was being nominated as president. And he contacted me as, in almost in tears. And he goes, I can't do this. I said, what's the matter? He goes, I can't be president of the association before you are. You're the person who brought me here. And I said to him, I said, you know what? It is not about taking turns. It's not about a sequence. I said, I am extremely proud of you and the fact that you have elevated yourself to this level to be recognized, to be eligible for such a position. Mm-hmm. So accept the nomination, run, get elected. And if you get elected, even better. And so he did, and he was elected as president. And in the following cycle, I wound up being nominated and elected. And so then he was happy because I had my turn. I'm like, it was my turn. But those are the kinds of successes that we have, right? And understanding that the people around us, whatever success they have, we shouldn't be jealous of them.
No.
We should share in their joy and happiness. And that is kind of the biggest lesson that I learned in my own self coming up when I realized, even back in the disco dance days, it wasn't the fact that I was getting attention as the dancer. I was actually training people to do competitions. I wasn't competing myself. I could have. I did a couple of times, but mostly I was training other people to do competitions and having them win. And that was my reward. And that's the kind of thing that I get out of this stuff.
That's beautiful.
That is a beautiful story. It really is. And, but guys like you are fed, and the same thing for me. We're fed by the impact that we can make to other people. Not so much it's not about us. It's about the impact that you can make, and you make a tremendous impact. I wish that rather than being in my dark little room and talking into my little microphone and talking to you and talking to Cayetana one-on-one and stuff, that I was in front of 1,000 people. Maybe one day I'll do that. I don't know, but it would.
You have how many thousands of listeners, Kevin? You are having that impact. You just can't see it from where you're at.
I know, and it drives me. No, it doesn't drive me crazy because there because just like you, there are times when we have got an impact on people that we'll never see, we'll never know, and
Mhm.
but it's real, and we can actually help people. And that's why I had you on, because you are a very engaging man. You've got a heart of gold. And that's why that woman of yours, what is it, 40 years now, 38 years.
38 years. Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
beautiful.
30, I did the math.
Connie.
That all in my head, all that is not bad. Um, and she recognizes that you have a heart of gold, and she worries about you, that you're doing too much, and it's tough, but she knows that came with the package.
And it's quite a package. I feel
Well, we don't.
I feel so sorry. I feel so sorry for her because all the craziness that she gets with me. But
Can you
And
tell us what is your fire? Like you have shared your fire. What is your fire? What lightens you up?
so what motivates me is exactly
Mhm.
what I was talking about before. The ability to make a difference for somebody else. You know, um, people like to be competitive. They want to be first. They want to make themselves feel important by being, on the top rung or whatever. And that's not really what life is about, right? Because there can be only one winner in any kind of a race. But it's not a competition. Life is about success, and we can succeed together and be even more successful when we do things together and we do things with each other. And I think that's probably the most important lesson of all, is to understand that you don't have to blow out my fire to make yours burn brighter.
in fact, it doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your fire can burn brighter when you are fanning the flames of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And where the fire comes from, it's that motivational spark, that thing that gives us that warm feeling, that inner motivation. And this is where the whole fire thing came from, right? Because I talk about this inner passion, this burning inside, and it goes back to my fascination when I was a kid. Being the little guy, I found my inspiration in watching old classic monster movies, because in the monster movie, no matter how big and bad the monster was, the bully,
Mm-hmm.
the little guy could win. And so usually the little guy had a torch. And what the torch did was it lightened the darkness. The things that we're afraid of in life are the things that we don't understand, the things that we can't see.
Yep.
And so by bringing light to those things and illuminating those things, we can see them, we can understand them, and we can deal with them better, and we don't have to fear them. And so that changes our whole persona when that light is on. So you bring that torch. It wasn't the flame of the torch that chased the monsters away. It was the light. And so I thought about it. What makes that light burn within us? Well, there's a couple of things. One is the fact that our light burns when we know that we're trusted. Also, when we are given the opportunity to try things and be successful, or even to try things and fail. When we are respected as an individual, when we are communicated with as an equal, and most importantly, when we are treated with humanity as a fellow human being. And so all of those pieces, trust, opportunity, respect, communication, and humanity, is the acronym for TORCH. And that's where I came up with it. And the torch is the torch fire.
I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Cayetana, good job. That was a great question. Because that's, see, and in talking to a guy like you, John, there is so many nuances and so many levels to you that it takes a while to get it out of you.
Look, I didn't come on here to do a sales pitch, Kevin. I came on here to chat with you.
Well, but I'm doing a sales pitch for you because it you have there are rare people on the planet that have the ability, in my opinion, to help other people get to a better place, and you're one of those. Yeah, I really think that you have the ability to stand in front of a bunch of folks, and maybe 8 out of 10 will go, oh yeah, what the whatever, and then but there's that 2 or that 3 that'll go, that makes just too goddamn much sense, and I'm going to follow. I'm going to go research it, and I'm going to learn more about it, and it's going to change their life. And that's
I,
all. That's really
I
good for.
live to deliver that aha moment for people.
Yeah.
Mhm. I like that. That's beautiful.
And then that is so important. If you can provide that, and that's why you're here, so that I'm not providing it, but I'm doing it through you. And so somebody is going to listen to this, and they're going to look at it in a whole different way, or they're going to look at themselves in a whole different way. That then they're going to go to your website and they're going to say, I need to hire that guy, or I need to work with him, or I need to talk to him, or maybe I'll just drop him a line.
And my line is open. My line is open. My email is open. And anybody needs to reach out, please do.
Indeed. Cayetana, anything else? We have taken a whole hour of this man's time, and he's back east, so it is now 7:00 at night. It's time for dinner, I think.
Yeah.
And so, has anything that you'd like to add, Cayetana, before we let John go?
I wanted to say thank you for visiting us today and sharing your wisdom with all of us and your experiences. And we hope you come back too. And before you go, I wanted to ask, how can people get in touch with you, and our listeners, how can get in touch with you and sign up for your motivational speaking workshops, or for you to go to their companies and help everyone else? Everyone else in there.
Thank you, Cayetana. Well, one thing I don't do is I don't hide. So if you go to johnverrico.com, you will find me. I'm on Facebook as John Verrico Speaks. I am on LinkedIn and Instagram as John Verrico. And I am on what used to be Twitter and is now that bizarre X as J Verrico. Just my initial, Verrico. I had started that one long before I got onto the rest of the stuff. So I am out there all over the place. And my phone number is 240-257-NERD.
Awesome.
And that is
257-6373, which actually spells nerd. When I saw those numbers, I went, that spells nerd, and that is just me.
I don't believe that for a minute. But before we go, I've got 2 questions for you. Number one, you are living where right now?
Based out of York, Pennsylvania.
So, well, let's see. So you could be a Green Bay Packer fan, or a New York Jets or Giants, or a Patriot fan.
I noticed you completely left out the Eagles and the Steelers.
Oh, the Eagles and the Steelers. You'll never see them cross my lips in a positive way, ever. Not in this lifetime.
So there's 2 things I'll say about that. I really was never much of a big sports fan. Mostly because sports is so competitive and everybody's all out to win. But there is lessons to be learned in teamwork there.
Yes, there is.
Teamwork and camaraderie are very important. But I've never been really much of a spectator sport kind of guy. My father wasn't into it, so we didn't sit around and watch the games all the time. Mostly because I was a sucky athlete myself. He didn't want to embarrass me, and by watching real athletes at play. So I just never really got into it. I like to play, when I'm out there, like street basketball, or which I still suck at, and hit the ball with a bat around every once in a while. But it's goofy stuff. It's company softball league kind of goofy stuff. But
now I played football and played baseball and all that stuff. But the lessons that
I don't hold it
learn,
against you.
Thank you. But the lessons that you can learn. One time, first of all, our head coach was 6'5". He was a big dude. He could bench press, like dumbbells, 100-pound dumbbells over his head. I mean, the big guy, strong guy, intimidating.
You're out in Seattle, right?
Yep. And
So I wonder if it's the same guy. Anyway, go ahead.
his name is Jock McLaughlin.
Okay, no. There was a guy I was in the Navy with who was 6'6" and change, and can just he bench press 400 pounds and stuff, and he was just ginormous. We called him Magilla.
Gilla Gorilla.
Yeah, we did. We called him Magilla. Yeah.
And anyway, at the end of practice, we were doing drills for, and this is taken me my whole life. We're doing 100-yard sprints, but from goal line to goal line, and they do that to get us in shape and that kind of stuff. Well, so everybody would line up, and on the goal line, you put your hand, and then you go and you go all the way through the other goal line. You turn around, put your hand on the goal line, and do the thing. One of the guys put his hand 6 inches over the goal line, and the coach stopped everything. And he said, he looked at the guy and he said, if you're going to cheat this football team out of 6 inches, you're never going to be able to compete at anything in your life until you figure out that cheating is not the way to go. And we were going 100 yards, and he was thinking, okay, I can go 6 inches less, I'll be, but you know what I mean? So that carried with me. So that's integrity.
It's an important lesson. Yeah, it's an important lesson. I learned that in the Navy. Don't forget, everything is all about teamwork there. It's all about, well, the military, when you go to boot camp, the drill sergeants, they kind of break you down, but they break you down as an individual so that you come back up as a team member. And so you really learn that you're part of a team, and as an individual, you can't get very far. And I know I dinged my whole company, my whole boot camp company, because I couldn't shave properly.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
And I didn't know that was a problem at the time, but yes. So apparently, I did not shave close enough. So the inspector pulled my ID card out of my pocket and rubbed it against my face. And if they hear that sound, you have not shaved close enough to pass inspection, even though it looked perfectly clean.
Wow.
And so my company got gigged for that. So the next time we had an inspection, I shaved multiple times to try to make sure that it was right. And my company commander kept coming over to me, taking my ID card, rubbing it against my face, going back in there. So I shaved 9 times.
Wow.
I looked like Freddy Krueger
Oh my God.
had gotten a hold of me.
Like
and so I'm walking around now, and it's dress whites, no less. And I'm walking around with wads, not just pieces, but wads of toilet paper stuck to my face for the blood. And I can't put my white top on until the very last second, because I don't want to take a chance of getting any blood on the uniform, because everything has got to be perfect. And we get ready, and finally the bleeding stops. I peel this paper off of my face and clean up, and I'm all scabbed up at this point. And so I finally put my dress whites on, and it's pristine. And we get out there, and we're out there in line, in uniform, and we're sitting out there, and it is 93 degrees. The sun is busting down on us, and the sweat starts. Well, the sweat starts, all these scabs start to open up, and I could feel on my white uniform. Well, the inspector, as he was coming down the row, he kept looking over at me, and he noticed the drip starting to come down my face. So he slowed down. Had he kept his normal pace, he would have been past me before the drip had come all the way down. And I can't move because I'm just standing at attention. He slowed down. So when just before he got to me, it went blip onto my uniform.
Oh.
And we got dinged for my having a soiled uniform.
Oh, but you did the best you could.
Yeah, I did my best. I did what I could. I bled for my company.
Indeedy doody.
Yeah, and I know we went into overtime with that story, but I had to tell it.
No, that's perfectly fine. But I want to be sensitive to your time. So, Cayetana, anything that you'd like to add before we go?
Come back, please. Yeah, that was incredible. Thank you. I enjoyed your our time together.
Thank you so much. And Cayetana and Kevin, both of you, thank you so much. You bring to me that inner warmth inside of us that just lights my fire.
Oh, I love that.
And you show me how to share that fire with other people.
Oh, I love it. Thank
You're an awesome man, and you're going to be back on the show in a couple of weeks, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that as well. So thank you so much for being here. And by the way, go to johnverrico.com. You can find out everything you need to know, and you can talk to him. You can book him. You can look at him naked. No, I'm kidding. That's not.
You don't. That's the comedy part.
Exactly. Well, just a real quick story. On Thursdays I do these 15-minute meetings. They're production meetings back to back to back to back. And the first one that I did, he's got a yoga studio in Costa Rica, and one of the things that they do is called hot naked yoga. And I said to him, "Is that real?" And he said, "Yeah, it is." And I said, "So do you have to position yourself so that when somebody's bending over, you don't have to, you know what I mean?" And he said, "No, because you're so intense that you don't ever look at anybody else, and you're oblivious to all that's around you." And I said to myself, "Oh, that's just bullshit. He doesn't know that men do not operate that way, I'm afraid." So,
No, because even in regular yoga, everyone is checking out at each other. You're on your spiritual path, but you're still checking out. We're humans.
Yes, indeed.
We are absolutely humans with those exact human faults.
Yep, and if you check somebody out at the wrong particular time, you're going to get grossed out. I can tell you that.
99% of the time. It's not what people go, "Oh, I want to go to the nude beach." No, you really don't.
No. I've
My wife and I were on our honeymoon at Couples in Jamaica, and there was a little off island, just little boat ride out. You can see it from the shore, but that was for people who wanted to nude sunbathe. And so here are all these, young couples in their 20s, young honeymoon couples and stuff in their 20s. We were hanging out on the regular beach because on the nude beach were all the 70 and 80-year-olds.
Yes, indeed. And the moral of the story is there's a reason why God invented clothes.
And eyelids.
Exactly. John, thank you so much for being here. Go have dinner now. And
I think I'll do that. Thank you very much. You have a great day. Thank you so much.
Would you do me a favor? I have not met your wife, but I admire her greatly, and give her a hug for us. Would you please?
I absolutely will do. Thank you so much.
So
I will.
If you will wait right there for just a second, I'll be right back.
Hey, thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of PositiveTalkRadio.net. Please visit our website, oddly named PositiveTalkRadio.net, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to one another, because